G'day everybody, hope you're well. Welcome to another video. Now in today's video, I want to I want to go over the R31 Skyline as a whole and just show you my sort of experience over the last 9 years of owning these cars. This is my first R31 and I've had up to about 10 of them. I just want to sort of share experience with owning them over 10 years, the good things about them, the bad things about them. But I want to touch on the things to look out for when you want to buy one of these vehicles, or if you want to get into them as a drift car, a street car, and also the good things about them and why I love them so much that I've had 10 of the fucking things. Sit back and enjoy. And first of all, I'll give you a nice brief overview of my own car if you're not familiar with the channel, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty and start talking about why I love these things so much and why you should get one. So to start it off, this is my 1990 R31 Skyline factory manual GX. I've done it in the two-tone look and I've sort of gone all out on it in the last, well, I bought it in 2012, end of 2012, and it's my second car. My first car is the 180 in the garage over there. So I bought it when I was 16. I didn't really know what I was getting into and sort of started building it from there. It's a completely stock car, and for you guys that aren't familiar with the channel, I'll go over and show you what's been done to it. So you can see she's got some battle scars on her, like the lip's pretty fucked. You know, it is a street driven track car and I'll show you why. You'll probably notice the hydraulic handbrake in there and the chunky cage. It is street registered, so I do drive on the street. And our bonnet is fading here. Unfortunately, that is actually pretty new that this has happened, so I've got to get this addressed. Hopefully I can get rid of it. If not, I'll just repaint the bonnet. Before I start, there is a video I have done, like an in-depth sort of look at this car, probably about maybe 6 months ago. I did like what I love and hate about R31 Skylines. Be sure to check that out, but I want to do another video sort of addressing what to look out for if you're buying them, and another good pointers of why to get one. Starting at the front on mine, I've got a front coupe bar, so it's off a GDS-X. I'm pretty sure it come off, so it has a little air dam in the side there. It's a genuine coupe bar, it's not, hasn't been cut. I got it off a mate's car. Front lip here, which I've actually made by cutting another top section of one of these old bars, and it had joint in the middle, a fiberglass. It was beautiful. Hit a dirt mound at a track and it split in the middle. I'm gonna get another lip, probably get a R31 house style lip at the front, so don't really care about that at the moment. Got the old projectors. I got these for a bargain back in the day. They're actually mint, a bit dirty, but they're actually mint projectors. I paid about 150 bucks for these back in the day. They were about 150 to 500 bucks, I think they were back in the day. So mint condition, and it didn't have any discoloring of the chrome bezels. Those were the bargains of these cars back in the day. So coming up to the side here, the wheels are work equipped 03s. I'm pretty sure 03s. You can see our little S13 turbo brakes behind them. These wheels are probably the newest addition for this car, and they just sort of make the car. I love the look of this thing with these wheels, and they're on hand-cooked semi-slicks, and yeah, they make the car feel really nice with the wider track compared to my other tires. Love the look of this thing with the clips on it. Sits nice too. Suspension wise, we have the notorious S13 front end suspension, and we got the max speeding rods coilovers, which they kindly sponsored to me. They've been doing fine. So we've got the Whiteline 27mm adjustable sway bar at the front, S13 knuckles, hubs, brake rotors, brake calipers, so it turns it into McPherson style front over the standard spindle. Coming up to the side, we have, so these skirts, they're a bit of a hit and miss. The guy who brought it off told me they were off a Cressida, but some people tell me they're like a Subaru Forester skirt or something. Whatever they are, it actually bolts into the factory mud flap hole on the 31, which is great at the front. At the rear, it had to be modified and cut. You can see my belt slap from track days has just annihilated the paint here. And at the back here, we just had to shorten it, cut it, and make it all fit, and it looks pretty cool. I reckon it sets the car up really nicely. The front lip and that side skirt. Coming to the back, same wheels as well. Usually I run stockies if I go drifting. You can probably see, I don't know if you can tell on camera, there should be a caliper up there, caliper in there. It's got twin calipers at the back. It's got a 411 diff in it, and it's got a mini spool as well. These calipers at the back here for the hydraulic handbrake. These ones up there are the normal foot brake calipers, so you can do the drifties. It's got all brand new bushes in the trailing arms and everything, and the upper arms. White line sway bar again in the rear, and we have an adjustable Tough Dog panhard rod in the back there. Coming around to the rear, up the top here, we got a very common thing back in the day and today. People get the louvers at the back and they slice them and make a roof wing. So I had louvers, I got a set of louvers for free, which are these ones, and the bottom two were broken. So I thought, bugger it, I'll just cut it, turn a roof wing, and I love the look. That's how that happened. Found the clips off eBay, and Bob's your uncle. And obviously we have here the Venetians. These are the metal blinds, and I got these for nothing as well. These are the deals you get back in the day. Coming up to the back, we have a Series 2 silhouette rear wing, which is my favorite out of the three. The Series 3 silhouette wing, sort of like a step rear spoiler. And I like the sort of boot, it's very 80s, I love the look of it. We have the Series 3 hot plates at the back, very distinguishable rear end on these things. And we have the Skyline decal across the back as well, just to give it that nice look. A lot of the HR31s come with that standard. A little cannon that's been squished from all the times we've reversed out the driveway and squished it. And a tow bar, because I like to, well, not tow bar, tow bloody plug, because I like to tow with this car as well. It actually is a good tow car. It actually towed this Falcon from an hour away in Ballarat to here. So what a weapon, track car and tow car. Now I'll show you the inside as well. So on the inside, sorry I haven't cleaned it, it's a little bit messy in here. We have Series 2 silhouette interior. So it used to have the brown interior. I can see I've still got the headlining. So it had that ugly brown interior. I had a silhouette, which I paid like bugger all for back in the day, and I swapped the interior in. So we have, you know, door cards, we got the seats. Obviously the rear end's been gutted seat wise. Front area is all silhouette, but we have the complete front here. So in the center here, we have the GK Tech hydraulic handbrake, the front section of the console, because I could actually just fit that in under that handbrake, but I can't fit the rear section, of course. And not really much else interior wise. I love the steering wheel, the silhouette riding, just needs a good clean. Now in the back here, we have Merlo Fabrications half cage. So I like to take this car on the track. And yeah, we got the rear seats out of it, rear seat belts out of it. Still got the carpeting and everything in there and the door cards. So still somewhat street-like, but yeah, it's cool to have the half cage in here. And obviously I can do tandems and take passengers at the track now, which is pretty cool. Underneath as well, we have a single piece tail shaft to the back. Really good mod to do because they flog out the center bearings on these a lot. And I'll get into the engine and stuff now because there's not really much done here. So on my car itself, the engine is pretty much standard. We have the 818B cam in here, which is like a GTS2 cam. We have Hurricane extractors, which are the 3 to 2 into 1. I've had these things glowing a few times on it. Factory manual gearbox in there, so standard 5-speed. Little pod filter at the front for all that induction noise. And yeah, not really much going on. Now these RB30s, they're freaking bulletproof. I've had this car for 9 years. Reliability wise, all I've changed is the battery and the alternator on this car. And I've been thrashing it since about 2014 when I got my license. And a few track days as well. And she never gets hot, never gets noisy. It just keeps on keeping on. And it doesn't even have the loud, notorious RB30 lifter tick, which is good. I also forgot to say max speeding rod coilovers in the back too. I'll have a quick look in the boot here, nothing really special. Got my tool kit over there, just for when I'm driving the road, just some tools that, you know, just in case something goes wrong if we're out street drifting, driving. Got some tires in here, just normal wear on these ones. So that's just from, you know, highway use and stuff like that. Same with this one, nothing illegal. I've got some Dynamat in there. Anything in the boot likes to take off or hit the sides, it's got a bit of cushioning, and that's actually the spare wheel well in there. Yeah, not much else in here, pretty bland. This is the strap for the spare tyre. That's about it for this car. So hopefully that's a brief enough overview of my own vehicle, and we can start getting into what to look out for when you're going to buy an R31 Skyline. Now the reason I'm doing this video is because I get asked this question a lot, whether it's on a video, whether it's on my social medias. I'm going to go look at an R31 Skyline. What do I look out for? Now I'm going to just sort of go off my experience. I don't know everything about these cars. Some things I may be wrong on, so you know, hear me out. This is just my experience and my humble opinion on these cars. First of all, things to look out for. Excessive ticking on these things. These things like to have really, really noisy heads. The lifters in them get a little bit dry over time. They start to wear unevenly, and when you're on idle, they start ticking like crazy. You can tell a normal little tick from an abnormally loud tick. One thing to look out for is on a cold startup. If it does have a little bit of a tick, don't worry. It's just building up oil pressure and then it should go away. If it doesn't go away, it'll need lifters. Lifters aren't expensive. You can still get them from Nissan. It's not much of a big job. It's a bit tedious, not too much, but you can change them. But be aware, because if it has noisy lifters, make sure the rest of the engine is, you know, in good condition as well. One big thing I tell people to look out for on these things is, of course, rust. Rust is one of the biggest problems with these cars if they're not looked after. Now, they do like to rust in some weird spots. A lot of the times behind these pillar trims, they start rusting in here and then they start rotting the roof out from the inside. It's quite rare, but that does happen. I've had a couple that have had that problem and it sucks. The firewalls tend to rust on these things, and the biggest spot on these cars are behind the guard here. So if you can, and you're going to look at one, if you can take the guard off or get someone to take the guard off and take a photo, because they have a drainage sort of spillway that comes out of this scuttle at the top here and it drains out down here and it all rots out inside here. It's the first thing I did when I bought this car is I pulled the guards off, and that was when I was 16 because someone told me about it. And then I fish oiled inside here, and then about 5 years later I pulled it off, and then I gave it a nice underbody coat just to make sure, check both sides of course. Also along these seams here, make sure they're not starting to get any surface rust. They like to rust in here, especially in there too. In the firewall, I've seen a lot of them rust inside there. I forgot to mention this car was turbo before I bought it. I bought it and then converted it to non-turbo. I had to have it on non-turbo for my P plates because I had my 180, which was turbo, so I didn't want two turbo cars. And you can sort of tell it's been turbo because it's been cut right there for the intercooler that used to be on this car. Another thing to look out for is underneath this little latch panel here for the bonnet latch. People tend to unbolt this, take it off, and then cut the radiator support behind it to get the engine out easier with the gearbox because the sump clears. So if you still have, you can see under here, you can see sort of the skin that goes underneath. If that's missing, be a little bit aware because it's going to be a lot more flexing under here. If it's still on there, keep it on there. People will cut it, like if you're going to cut it, do it for a track car, don't do it for a street car. I can still get the engine out pretty easily with that in there, so just watch out for that. Make sure that hasn't been cut underneath this panel here. Okay, still on the subject of rust, so come to the boot. If it does have a boot wing like this, make sure you have a look underneath, because these things usually are urethaned on, and they got a couple of studs that go through and a bolt that goes up through there. Make sure it's been nice and sealed off, because if rust gets under there, they can bloody rot these boot lids out like no tomorrow. So get into the boot. Another notorious spot, or two notorious spots, if the boot seal starts to leak, you get water building up in there, and you get water building up in there. Mine used to fill up in there because I had taillight seal here leaking. So when it rained, water would leak through there, into there, and end up down there. And we used to call this car an aquarium, because it used to fill up with water up to the top there, and you can actually hear it slosh around when you drive. So what I did was I just drilled 2 little pilot holes under there, and made sure I rust proofed them all and that, and then that way when it fills up with water, it just drains out like little like it pisses itself pretty much. Now, like I said, look under the wing, make sure there's no rust. Have a look up inside there, like that's, you can see that's where my my spoiler stud comes out, and make sure all inside this boot is okay. Also, tops of the wheel wells here, they start to get a bit rotty sometimes, so make sure they're all good. And after, pretty much that's it for rust. If I have missed something, let me know in the comments. I've gone from cars I've had in the past that have been quite rough and where they've rotted out, and I've seen some photos online of rust spots on these things. So, oh, also boot seal here, lift up the boot seal, make sure this channel where the boot seal sits on isn't rotted out. It actually is on my VL over there, which is a pain, so watch out for that, because water sits in there. And if you have got crap in here like mine, clean it out, because water, that'll catch moisture. You can actually see here on one of the tail lights, because we had a lot of rain lately, leaks through the seal just here. We actually haven't got any water in here, which is good. So let's pull this carpet off, do we? Now we're good. Other things to look out for on cars like this is like bent panhard rods. When you go to look at one, make sure, if you look at one wheel on this side, make sure it's the same on the other side. A lot of the times, if one of these have been lowered with the standard panhard rod, it'll push the axle off to one side. But if the car's standard height and the axle's off, you might have a bent panhard rod from a car hitting the gutter or something. Don't worry, I know, because I've seen plenty of them. Obviously, if you're going to get a stock R31 as well, these things actually drive really nice, stock standard. So just make sure you can you don't hear any noise in the suspension, just like any other car. They can get noisy trailing arm bushes and that, so the axle starts to move around at the back. You get a bit of crab walking. Up the front with the standard spindles, they get a little bit noisy sometimes, and the wheel bearings can go on them, of course. One of my favorite things I've done to this car, honestly, is the S13 front end conversion. It just gives you that McPherson style. You get a lot of camber and a lot of adjustability through the front suspension if you want to set it up for drifting. I've got, I forgot to mention before, I've got R33 lower control arms, so they give it just a little bit more lock. One thing I'll do for you guys now, I should have done before for you guys, is I'll start the car up and I'll show you sort of what the engine should sound like. How I was talking about that excessive ticking. So this should be completely cold. Another thing that likes to go out in these cars are fuel pumps. So listen for a fuel pump prime if you can't get one going. You can hear that little tick. That's sort of what you want it to sound like. You don't want it to be any louder than that. This gets quieter as the car runs too. Give you a little exhaust clip of it running. You can hear the little 818B cam churning away. Oh, I forgot to show you, I actually got factory cruise control too. Pretty cool. RB30s. What to look out for if you can't get them going, or if something goes wrong with them. Engine needs fuel, air, spark to run. This being fuel injected is actually very, very simple too. There's not really much to go wrong with them, and I've had everything sort of replaced on this just to make sure nothing will go wrong in the future. First things that usually go wrong on these things is the cam angle sensor, or the CAS, or crank angle sensor I should say. That is located under the distributor cap here. R31s run a Mitsubishi style CAS from factory. The VLs run Hitachi. They're notorious for being more unreliable than the Mitsubishi ones. So these ones actually don't fail as often, but if they do, you can buy a Bosch replacement. But a lot of the times, that's a lot of reason why you'll lose spark. One thing to do if you own one of these cars for a long time, I can't stress enough, pull the cap off and clean the points. Big thing to do, take the rotor button out, clean the rotor button, clean the points, car will run a lot better. This used to have blue leads on it, but I just replaced the leads and the car runs a lot better up in the RPM with these new, I think they're Top Gun leads. Another reason you'll lose spark is the main coil here. These tend to go bad as well. Pretty easy to replace. You can get them anywhere, any auto parts store. Another thing that likes to go wrong on these distributors is the pigtail clip for the cast here. They get worn over time, or the wires get brittle at the top here and break out of the pins. That way the car sort of, you know, runs out of connection and will cut in and out intermittently, and the earth here as well. Another thing that can go wrong is under these wires here is the power transistor on the side of the distributor. These can sometimes go bad, and then you'll have no spark as well. So I keep a couple of spares of those in the glove box just in case a long road trip one of those burns out. One time I actually couldn't get this thing running for some reason. I left it for a long time, and I replaced everything, and then the whole time it was just literally fouled spark plugs. So make sure you always check your plugs. I fouled all the plugs, and make sure your leads are all good. Just all the, you know, the essentials to get this thing running. There's not much to them. Electronically, that's pretty much it for these cars. Sometimes they can have some wiring gremlins with the fuse box and stuff like that, or, you know, on the ignition switch and the key. Pretty rare. Another thing, like I said before, fuel pump. Fuel pump's a big thing. Make sure it's priming, make sure it's got full pressure. Sometimes the factory fuel pressure regs can go on these things, and you know, the car won't run right. It'll idle, but then you got to give it RPM and it just dies. And the fuel filters, you can see mine sort of slipped out of the thing here because I had to shorten the line, but fuel filters, sometimes they can clog. Make sure they are not clogged. I had a problem where this was pretty much full of rust at one stage, so clean that out, and the car ran $1 million and put some new fuel line on it. Engine wise, that's pretty much all you got to look out for on these things. Pretty simple. One time I did have a power steering line pop off at the bottom, so I ran a new hard line on that. That's pretty much it, nothing crazy. Cooling wise, standard radiator and shroud and fan is the way to go. Nothing bigger, nothing smaller, that's pretty much it. Go on big power or something, run a Mishimoto or something, but you know, for this standard setup, I run at the track all day long with this setup, and it does not get hot. Probably goes just a little bit over half, that's about it. Giving it a good thrash. Another thing to look out for, if you're going to buy an automatic, auto's notorious to slip in them if they're not looked after. So if you go to mash your foot down, it doesn't know what gear to change, or it sort of struggles to get up in the RPM and you're not moving very much, that's probably the automatic slipping. So make sure the auto's being well looked after, and if you're going to convert it to manual, make sure it's good manual gearbox. Make sure the synchros, if it's hard to get, you know, into gear or out of gear, synchros are usually worn. You can hear it whine. Usually second gear they like to whine. I've had no problems with my gearbox so far, and I'm running a single piece tail shaft. Like I said, do a single piece tail shaft if you're going to, you know, drive it a lot. Stops those center bearings from flogging out in those tail shafts. One thing that sucks on these cars are the standard handbrakes. They are a 4-wheel disc car from the Series 1 to the Series 3. They're all-wheel disc, but the standard handbrakes on them are terrible. If you're going to try and drift with them, they're shit. That's why I went with the dual calipers, because the standard handbrake, no matter how hard I'd adjust it, no matter how hard I'd pull it, it would just never lock up. It'd slow the car down. They're just notorious for being pretty bad. A lot of the times, even fully adjusted, I'd leave the car on a hill. I'd always put it in gear. If you have it on a big hill, put it in park or in gear, just to make sure, because the handbrake, you know, even if you have them good, they will loosen up so easily. Another thing on these cars, standard LSDs, they've got a cone style LSD in them, so they like to, you can get them rebuilt, shimmed, whatever, and then like literally like, you know, 3 months of driving, it'll start single pegging again. They're not the greatest. So this car was a factory LSD car as well. I pulled the LSD out. I still got it somewhere in the garage, but I got it rebuilt, shimmed it, doubled and that, but after a while of hard driving it, you know, single pegged, it wore out pretty fast. Another thing just to check out, these tail lights can hold water. A mate of mine had like a line of water through there, and it actually put a little fishing in there, and have a little fish tank going on there. So make sure these lenses are sealed up nicely. Same with the headlights too. Sometimes a pain in the ass is the trims here like to pop out. Mine popped out here, so I just like tucked it in there. But you know, these cars are getting old with age now, so nothing's gonna be perfect unless you fully restore them. Pretty much it for the trims and everything. You see my little number 19 from the track day I did. You can see the 32 over there patiently waiting to do a video. Yes, I'll do one on you soon, don't worry. Yeah, I'll probably do the same style of video on the R32, because a lot of people want to get them and they're getting very expensive as well. So I'll probably do a video on like what to look out for if you're gonna spend a lot of money on one of those two, because they're getting pricey. Geo over there, isn't she beautiful? Another problem I just thought of is a very common one. I'll sort of show you. I'll sort of fix this one, but the door locks. The door locks are a pain in the ass on these cars. I fixed mine. See, I can lock it and unlock it. A lot of the times you unlock it and the door lock will stay down, and you sort of got to like, you got to sort of unlock it and pull the handle at the same time, and it'll come up. Now, what I've done to accommodate that, there was times where I actually had to go through my car or get into my car through the passenger door. So what I had to do was take the door card off, take the door mechanism out, and there's a little tab that sort of bends over that sort of catches the mechanism, and that over time metal fatigues and sort of straightens out and then snaps off. Got rid of that tab completely, and screwed a self-tapper in there, and now it locks on a self-tapper screw, so it's like a bump stop for it. There's actually a whole write-up on R31 Club Wiki on that, and that helped me dearly. So I did it to that door as well, this door, and the rear doors have been fine because they don't get used a lot. But these doors, notorious for fucking just not working properly in the door locks. God, I really gotta fix this bonnet. I fucking hate looking at it. A lot of the reason I don't drive this car out in the street anymore because that bonnet, I just hate looking at it. You can see it's got bloody freaking marks all over it. Like, that's where I just grazed the wall when I was trying to park it, you know. I can just repaint that black. I need a new lip and all that shit. That's cracked there, and indicators hanging out. It's just, that's just from track days. It gets pretty highly abused on the track, but it's still pretty clean. She's still pretty clean, having it for a long time. This car actually used to be an ex-rally car before I bought it. The guy that I bought it off used to rally race it, and she's still going, So now that I've gone over all the things to look out for in this car, I want to sort of go over, you know, if you're looking to buy one, why you should buy one and why you need to buy one of these cars, because they're going up in value. But at the same time, one of the biggest reasons to buy one of these cars is just look at it. Oh, would you look at this? Just look at it. Seriously. Like, obviously a stock standard one's not gonna look like this, but I don't know, I'm a bit of a slut for like boxy 80s cars. I don't know why. It's just, they're just sexy. Like, you know, they're iconic looking, you know, the circle taillights at the back, the boxy look, have them nice and lowered on a set of wheels, the projectors. It just looks so, just, you know, this is Australian delivered, of course. One thing I didn't go over before is Australian delivered. For people watching overseas, these have pillared doors. So, got a pillar here, the HR31 passages, and the, obviously the coupes are, you know, a coupe, but the passages have no pillars here, so they're actually a little bit weaker. When you actually jack them up from the sill, they can actually see the door gaps open, but these have pillars. I think these came in South America too, like this. They were called Skyline XLs, I think. Or I think it's South Africa, my bad. I think it's South Africa. But yeah, this is Australian delivered, so they come with the pillared doors and the hot plate tail lights as well. The coupes and that had the afterburners. They looked pretty cool. Yeah, obviously all the Australian delivered, they came with the RB30, but they never came turbocharged in the Skylines. The RB30 turbos only came turbocharged in the VL Commodores, and that were the Calais. But easily turbocharged. Another thing you can do, another thing I didn't talk about, is all the bungs are in there that you just undo, that you can just make them turbo pretty easy. So you don't have to, you know, you don't have to drill into the sump. You got the sump oil outlet down the bottom, and a piece of piss to do. So this will be turbo very soon. So if you want to see this thing turbo, I've got mostly everything for it, so stick around, and we'll be doing that build very soon. If you're going to daily one of these, probably wouldn't recommend it because these things do get stolen pretty easily, but at the same time, these are great dailies if you keep them stock suspension, and they are so comfortable. If you get like a TI, I've had a TI and they are so comfortable. This car, when it was on stock springs, even though when I brought it was manual and LSD and all that, it was so freaking comfortable to drive. Another massive thing about these cars, and you know, I hear stories about people saying, you know, they break down all the time. I've never had one that's broken down ever. Like, they are honestly so fucking reliable. Like I said, I think I've done power steering line, alternator, and a battery on this car, and I've owned it since 2012. I got my license in 2014, and I've been driving it pretty much ever since. And yeah, never had any issues, and I've been given it a hard time, and it has been so reliable. I wouldn't trade it for anything, just for the reliability wise. So if you're gonna ask me if 31's reliable, I'm gonna say hell yeah, unless it's been, like, you know, very neglected. Even if you're getting a project car, you know, a cheap 31, get one and just get into the nitty gritty and start learning. There's lots of write-ups online about everything being done to these cars. Go on R31 Club Wiki, everything's on there that you need to know. So if you want to get involved with one, you're a bit scared to learn and tinker, just jump into one. They're fantastic cars. I love them, and I learned a lot on this car. Even though I had the 180 over there I was building, this car I learned so much on. And I hope more people get into these cars, because I want people to enjoy them, and you know, we can go on, you know, 31 cruises and stuff, Skyline cruises. Now, I'm just trying to think if I've missed anything. I hope I haven't missed anything. I've been trying to go as thoroughly over the car as possible, but don't let any of those, you know, cons get to you, because they're pretty small things, you know, compared to, you know, the new cars that you get. I hope it doesn't, you know, shy you away from these cars. You should just get involved in them. They're so much fun. And if you can't, you know, get involved in these things, because these things are just as cool, but they're bloody expensive now. Oh, it's bloody filthy though. I gotta give it a wash. It stays under the car cover, so got to give it a good wash. Well, anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I've given you a bit of a lesson about these cars. If not, I've probably screwed you over. If I've missed anything in the comments, if there's any other 31 gurus out there that know a bit more than me, you know, let me know in the comments if I missed anything. This is just, like I said, my experience of owning these cars for over 9 years, about 10 of them. So trying to give you as much advice as I can if you want to get into them. And I get asked questions a lot, so that's why I'm making this video. If you haven't already and you like what I do, subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a lot, and I like to make these videos because, you know, I love cars so much, and big passion of mine. So like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, and we'll see you in another video. So take care everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.